"Hello, is Daddy home?" asked a boy of about 7 years old, ringing the doorbell. Genesis looked at the guest and smiled indulgently. "Children, such children, something will come into their heads. You must have the wrong apartment. Your dad's not here. We just moved in. What apartment are you from?" "I live in the building next door." The boy looked behind Vera's back incredulously, as if looking for someone. "Do you want me to walk you home?" "Did you come alone?" "Alone. I am, in fact, already an adult." The child took offense. "I see. So I made a mistake. But the address is correct. 11. "What happened to your dad?" "Who told you that address?" "I heard it by accident, when my dad and mom were talking." "Explain more." "Is your dad missing?" "No, he rarely comes to our house. He never takes me with him. So I decided to go to him myself." The boy rattled on. "Does your mom live with you?" "Yes." "It's clear that nothing is clear. Let me walk you home after all." "Wait, now I'll put on my jacket and let's go." Genesis entered the apartment, but didn't shut the door, and the boy slipped in after her. While she was getting dressed, he looked around and suddenly ran into the room. "Stop! Where are you going?" Genesis went after him. "Daddy." Genesis thought the child had lost his mind, but it turned out that the boy had just seen a reflection of a photograph in the mirror. On the bedroom wall hung a large photo portrait of Vera and her husband, John. Genesis laughed. "Kid, that uncle can't be your father. He doesn't have any children. He's my husband." "No, he's my daddy. I guess he just looks like..." Confused Genesis. "Here, look." The child took out a smartphone from his pocket and showed a picture that gave Vera goosebumps. The child had been photographed with her husband. They were sitting on a Ferris wheel in the park. "What's your father's name?" "Dad, Thea." "Anthony," the boy introduced himself. "And who are you?" "I'm Genesis." Vera's eyes went black. She almost fell over, grabbing the back of the chair just in time. There were so many thoughts in her head, a hurricane. Could it be that the boy was mistaken? A coincidence? Could there have been a man in the photo who looked like her husband? A namesake who occasionally came to visit little Anthony and his mom? Or was his mom John's mistress who gave birth to his child? She gave birth about 7 years ago, right after she and her husband got married. All this information did not fit in Vera's head. Everything had to be sorted out. Everything had to be found out. "Tell me, Anthony, why doesn't your father live with you and your mom?" "I like to ask him that too. That's why I came." The boy looked away. Let's ask him together. He'll be here in about an hour and a half." Genesis looked at her watch and took off her jacket. "You won't be scolded for leaving home. Mom will come late. She's on duty today. She works as a doctor." "Is that so? Well, come in then. We'll wait for your daddy in the kitchen." Genesis sank tiredly into a chair. Of course, Genesis could have offered her guest tea, but her insides were churning and her hands were shaking. She already hated her husband's mistress in absentia, and Anthony was annoying, too talkative and gullible. What was he thinking, showing up at someone else's apartment? "May I?" The child reached for a vase of her husband's favorite candy. "Daddy always brings them. I love them, but my mom says that too much candy is bad for you. She won't let me eat them." Genesis shook her head. She didn't feel sorry for the candy. She felt sorry for the years she had spent with her unfaithful husband. There was a freshly made soup on the stove, and an appetizing crispy chicken waiting in the oven, just the way he liked it. Genesis hurried home from work so that she had time to prepare dinner. John did not like yesterday's food, and Vera had to cook every day. Lately, she was very tired, because after the promotion, there were constant financial reports at work, but there was no way to change her husband's habits. And his weak stomach did not allow him to feed John semi-finished products. He never cooked and only took it upon himself to put the dishes in the dishwasher, which was rarely turned on. While John was remembering how to start the washer, Genesis had time to wash 2 plates by hand. While Genesis was thinking about her husband, the vase of candy was empty. And the boy probably didn't eat anything, she thought for some reason. "Are you going to eat?" "No, thanks. My mom doesn't let me eat when I'm a guest." Isn't candy food? No. There was a pause. Genesis didn't know how the evening would end, but it was obvious that it couldn't go back to the way it was. As Genesis pondered, the doorbell rang. "Dad?" Anthony asked, jumping up from his chair. The word daddy hurt her ear. It was hard to think of her husband as a father, since they had never had children in 7 years of marriage. "Sit here, let it be a surprise," Genesis said, and went to meet John. John came home angry and tired. For months he had been seeking a promotion, but the management did not consider it necessary to meet his needs. "You're a good professional, but things are not going well at our firm right now. A lot of people have to be laid off, so be glad we're keeping you," said the boss. "Be glad? I'll quit. I'm tired of earning pennies. I'm always short of money. I have to beg my wife," thought John, throwing off his jacket and slamming the door irritably. He hoped that his caring wife, Genesis, would meet him at home. She would understand his decision to quit, but all that would come later. First on the schedule was a delicious dinner and a nap. The pleasant aroma of his favorite chicken was in the air, and John cooled down a bit. "Good evening, and I was just waiting for you," said Genesis. "Hello, darling. I don't have the energy to talk at all. I would eat and go to bed. We'll talk tomorrow," he replied, walking past his wife and stopping in the kitchen doorway. John saw the child sitting at the table. Vera's husband even lost the power of speech from surprise. "Daddy." Anthony jumped up and rushed to John, but he just stood there like a pillar. He didn't know how to behave because his wife was behind him. The only thing that came to his mind was to push the boy away and mutter, "It's not that at all. Not what I think it is." Genesis crossed her arms over her chest and arched an eyebrow sarcastically. She felt strange, uncomfortable, and it felt like it was a dream. This was a stupid situation that she was the one who had gotten herself into. "Daddy, aren't you glad I came?" Anthony was jumping around his father, trying to get his attention, but John was looking at Vera. "Yeah, no, none of this means what you might think. I'm not thinking anything, John. Just take your son and go. I'll send your things to a new address, next door. But I didn't want to leave you. It wasn't part of my plan. What you wanted doesn't interest me. I've been doing what you want for too long without thinking about what I want. You have. And what's that? Here, even this fucking chicken. I can't stand it." Genesis angrily took the pan out and put the chicken in the trash. "My mom said you shouldn't throw food away," Anthony muttered. "Didn't your mom say you shouldn't take someone else's husband out of the family?" Genesis asked him irritably. But Anthony did not answer, because in John's pocket, his cell phone rang. He pulled out his cell phone and finally groaned. "Is Mom calling?" Anthony was frightened. "What are you doing?" "Pick up the phone," Genesis insisted. "Put it on speaker. A family should know its heroes." John dropped the call, but a message came through. "Anthony has run away. I don't know where to find him. He said he was going to go to you, but I didn't think he was serious. I didn't know he had your address." "Answer me, I'm worried," flashed on the screen. Genesis managed to read it. "You shouldn't make a woman worry. She's been waiting for you." Next came some words, some arguing. Genesis ran to the bedroom to shake her husband's things out of the closet. She started shoving them into bags and bags and bags. He tried to explain something to her, but she wouldn't listen. "Genesis, all of this. What? A mistake? Not serious?" Genesis placed the suitcase in front of her husband. John did not answer. A new doorbell broke the silence. "And who else did the hard work bring?" "Maybe you have more children. For a complete set?" Genesis asked, looking at her pale husband. Of course, he didn't go to open the door. Genesis, on the other hand, headed for the door. When she realized who was standing on the threshold, she was very surprised. "Amelia, is something wrong?" she asked, recognizing her childhood friend. "Yes, my son is missing." "Mommy, don't swear. I thought you were on duty," Anthony said quietly, looking out into the hallway. "Thank God you're here, son. Why did you run away from home? And you don't pick up the phone. I called you." Amelia looked worried and confused. And Genesis silently shifted her gaze from the child to his mother, trying to build a logical chain. As children, the girls had been very friendly. Genesis came to her grandmother's house for the whole summer, and Amelia lived next door to her mother. The friendship continued until Genesis grew up and stopped going to the village. So just recently, she and her husband and realtor traveled to the village home. Genesis was excited to see a longtime acquaintance, as they hadn't seen each other in so many years. They didn't keep in touch on social media and knew almost nothing about each other. Her grandmother had long since died, and the house in the village was empty and beginning to deteriorate. While the realtor was inspecting the place, Genesis and Amelia exchanged a few words. Amelia said that she had become a doctor, and Genesis was just looking for a good doctor to consult about pregnancy planning. Genesis only found out about the fact that Amelia had a son, and as it turned out, the father of Anthony was John, Vera's husband. Vera felt dizzy again. She felt sick. She woke up on the couch in the living room. Amelia was leaning over her. "Are you all right?" she asked. "You're asking me how I am?" Suddenly, so many emotions came over Vera that she wanted to cry, to scream, to laugh hysterically. "That wasn't nice. I'm sorry. Is that all you have to say to me?" Genesis raised her head and looked at her friend, who turned out to be her husband's mistress. "You know, you're right. I don't need to say anything else. I don't want to know how it all came out and how long my husband has been living in 2 families. That's the end of it. John is free. You can use it as you wish." Amelia sighed and, after a little silence, left the room. John wanted to say something, but Genesis would not listen to him. So after about 15 minutes of fussing, the apartment became quiet. Genesis covered her eyes and finally let the tears flow. Upon returning from work, John immediately made his way to the kitchen. He opened the lid of the pot and disappointedly put it back down. The pot was empty. He reached into the refrigerator and found only a container of yesterday's pasta. In the corner on the top shelf was some stale piece of sausage. Sighing, he checked the oven again, looked out on the balcony, found nothing, and started calling his wife. "Sorry, John, I can't talk. I'm busy. I'm busy at work. There was leftover soup from last night." "There's no soup." "My son must have finished it. I don't know. I'm at work." "Anthony, come here. Did you eat the soup?" "I had lunch after school," Anthony reported. He cleaned up his plate and put it away. John ignored the child's remark and, instead of praising him, continued to scold his wife. "Amelia, I demand an explanation. Why isn't dinner ready?" "I'm on duty, John. Cook something yourself." You? Actually, you're the wife." "Sorry, I have a patient. I'll call you back." The phone rang. "Oh my gosh, it's like this all the time." John cursed. He was really hungry. He had to go back into the refrigerator and pull out what he had. John hated pasta that was cold, stale, and clumpy. He could eat it fresh out of the oven. He could have tried to boil himself some new ones, but he didn't think that was a man's job. Not once in his life had he ever cooked anything himself. John didn't even know how to use a microwave, and it was lucky there were only 2 buttons, so it was hard to miss. The pasta didn't heat up very well. John had to choke on cold pasta and even finished a piece of sausage that had gotten weathered. He ate, resenting and berating Amelia for not taking care of him. John was determined to have a serious conversation with her and could not wait for her return. To keep himself occupied, he lay down on the couch and turned on the TV, but he fell asleep almost immediately. Anthony woke him up. "Daddy, Daddy?" He was tugging on John's sleeve, trying to wake him up. "What?" "I need help with my homework. It's for Mom. But I've got an assignment due tomorrow morning." The boy kept up, waving his math book in his father's face. "So you do it yourself. I'm not a teacher. My friends' parents help them. And you just lie on the couch." Anthony took offense, but when he saw John's face, he immediately corrected himself. "I'm sorry. I'll do it myself. You won't leave us again, will you? If you misbehave and annoy me, I will." Anthony bit his lip to keep from crying, took his notebook, and went to the kitchen to do his homework. John was finally left in silence and snored again. The next morning, Amelia came in after duty and found Anthony sleeping at the kitchen table. He was asleep with his head resting on a notebook. "Anthony, son, why aren't you in school?" The child opened his eyes and looked at his mom in surprise. "I guess I'm late. Daddy didn't wake me up." "Why were you in the kitchen sleeping?" "I was doing my homework and fell asleep." "And Dad?" "He slept by the TV." "I see. Come on, we can still make it to the last class." "And breakfast?" "We'll think of something." Amelia opened the fridge. It was empty. John again ignored her request to go to the store. Luckily, Amelia was buying pies from the hospital cafeteria and had one left over. She quickly heated the kettle, gave Anthony the pie, and the child ate. She then gave her son money for the canteen and helped him quickly pack his backpack. He missed a few classes but made it to math on time. When her son ran off to school, Amelia realized she was tired. The night on duty had been difficult. She decided to get some sleep and then do her chores. "Are you home?" Amelia saw her husband lying on the couch and looking at her reproachfully. "Did you oversleep?" "No, I don't understand. The kid's not at school, you're not at work. What's that supposed to mean?" "I quit." "Great." Amelia slumped in her chair. "What are we supposed to do now?" "You should take more care of your husband, for one." "I'm hungry. I haven't eaten since yesterday. I demand breakfast, and preferably in bed, because I don't feel well," John complained. "I haven't slept all night and I'm exhausted." "I'm hungry too, but I can't stand the stove." "You're a bad wife." "Maybe I am. I shouldn't have divorced Vera." "I didn't force you to divorce her. You came to live with us." "Where was I supposed to go?" "I don't know. Let's get a divorce, huh?" "What do you mean?" He flinched. "John, I'm tired of you. You don't do anything around the house. You don't bring money. And you're always nagging and scolding me and Anthony. He looks up to you and takes after you. He starts nagging me too. I'm afraid he'll grow up to be like you." "What's wrong with a son being like his father?" "Fathers are supposed to be role models. And you're a terrible father. When you and Anthony were seeing each other a couple of times a month, it was better than this. So I think we should take it all back." "Are you saying I should go back to Genesis?" "I don't know. You could just leave." I don't care," Amelia said. She regretted going along with her mom. She was the one who had insisted on getting married. It was hard for her to travel to Amelia's house to help with her grandson. "Anthony should have a father, and you need a husband. Sign and live." "I should have done this a long time ago. Talk to Genesis," she said. Plus, Anthony was very happy that his dad would finally be able to be around all the time. Under pressure from her son and mother, Amelia gave in. Amelia believed that she still loved John, but as soon as he became free, all feelings were removed. In addition, John was not the man Amelia had imagined him to be. Genesis spoiled her husband, making a big child out of a grown man. He did not want to work, demanded service, and constantly lay on the couch. Amelia sighed, remembering the way he was. It had been love at first sight. She was a student, and he was a construction worker. Amelia had lost her head and thought John would marry her. But John had other plans. He met Genesis, a more promising bride from a wealthy family. He didn't hesitate to propose. Amelia was devastated. Her dreams were shattered. Pregnancy was a severe test for her. She demanded that John break off the engagement, but he flatly refused to part with Genesis. And when Amelia learned that his beloved, her childhood friend, she decided to retreat. But she did not terminate the pregnancy. Genesis remained in the dark until the truth about Amelia and John's baby came to light. "Hey, what are you doing? Did you fall asleep?" John shook Amelia by the shoulder. "Get up, make breakfast, or rather, it's already lunch." Amelia looked up at her husband. "Why didn't you go to the store? You didn't give me any money." "I won't do anything else. I won't give you any more money. I'll divorce you and file for alimony." "Amelia, what are you doing? Don't be mad." John got up from the couch, realizing that his wife had gone to the edge. He didn't want to get divorced again. "Then go and work. You know we're hard up for money. Anthony went to school, and he needs something all the time. He's growing by leaps and bounds. His jacket is too small, and it's winter soon. I have an outstanding loan for new furniture for the nursery. And the school at the meeting said that you need to give another $15,000 for additional education. Where can I get so much? Shouted Amelia. Go and earn it, and don't sit around waiting for me to make you breakfast. All right, don't yell. I'll find the money. John got up, got dressed, and went somewhere. Genesis was picking out new wallpaper. She had been meaning to renovate for a long time so that nothing would remind her of the past. Genesis had even thought about selling the apartment, but after her divorce from her husband, she'd have been renting it out and living with her parents. We're moving out, taking out a mortgage, the tenants cheerfully announced, and Genesis realized it was time for updates. I'll renovate and live in beauty, or maybe I'll sell it. The apartment will be more expensive with renovations, she thought. She had to take the apartment in, so after a stroll through the construction store, she stopped by to get the keys. Then she tidied up a bit, took pictures of the furniture to sell everything, and started packing. But at the door, she met her ex-husband, John. Genesis, wait, I need to talk to you. I'm sorry, I'm in a hurry. This is important. Listen, Amelia and I are going through a very difficult time. Anthony has to go to school, debts, expenses, and she's a doctor. The salary is small. There's nothing to eat at home. I quit my job. All in all, it's complicated. What's that got to do with me? Can you lend me some money? John looked at Genesis, expecting her to understand his situation. But Genesis laughed. She didn't realize where her eyes had been when she married this pathetic man, who was hardly even a man. No, John, I can't help you. She got ready to leave. Part of her soul was rejoicing. She was glad that John and Amelia had worked things out the way they had. But the other part of her felt sorry for their son. She realized that nothing was the child's fault. So after taking a big breath and slowing down, Genesis decided to do the human thing. I'm going to do the repairs. If you want a part-time job, you can lay tile and wallpaper. I'll pay you. I haven't been doing repairs for a long time. I'm a supervisor, snorted John. Then, I can't help you. Have a good day, Genesis said and left. She sold the apartment and moved to another house, to a place where nothing tied her to the past, and where a new happiness awaited her. Amelia walked home with a heavy heart. She did not know how her son Anthony would react to the news that she was divorcing his father. Lately, the child has begun to have speech problems due to the fear of losing his father. As a child, Anthony was frightened by a dog, and he stopped speaking some words. Amelia took her son to the doctor she knew. The improvement was evident, and the child began to speak. But with the arrival of an irritant in the house in the person of John, he began to stutter again, and he again needed the help of a good doctor. To avoid making things worse, Amelia pulled as long as she could. She gave John a chance to change, waiting for him to start doing something to keep the family together, but her husband wouldn't change. Amelia would have kicked him out long ago, but Anthony was very attached to John. The child's love was probably due to his long absence from their lives. And now that John was finally living with them, Anthony tried to spend every free minute with his father. Only John was not in a hurry to take part in the boy's upbringing. He paid almost no attention to him and swatted him away like a pesky fly. The only common interest for father and son was a game console. Amelia was against buying an expensive toy, but Maya, her mother-in-law, and Anthony's grandmother decided to do her own thing. Instead of a useful gift like a winter jacket, she gave her grandson a game console. Anthony was insanely happy, and John, despite his age, was also not averse to playing. After he was fired from his job, he spent his days lying on the couch and playing games. At first, under the pretext of spending time with his son, he tells his wife, "You said we should play together more often." Then he started playing alone while his son was at school. And after a while, he got so naked that he stopped letting the child near his toy. Tears, scandals, and scolding began. Amelia realizes that the situation in their family is completely hopeless. Instead of getting a job, her husband became a dependent. He demanded from her the fulfillment of marital duties, and himself did exactly nothing. And so her patience ran out. Without results, Amelia was going to kick him out. She was only worried about her son's feelings. But still, she hoped that one day Anthony would understand her and be able to ask. With such gloomy thoughts, Amelia opened the door and entered the apartment. A mountain of dishes was still lying in the sink. Several empty bottles and cans of instant noodles had been added to it. "John, we need to talk," she began, catching her husband playing a game. "I can't. See, I'm busy." Amelia walked over to the TV and turned off the screen. "Are you crazy? I missed the right turn. Now the mission will fail." John got upset in all seriousness. "I'm sorry, but you'll have to finish it somewhere else. Don't you get it? I warned you. You didn't listen. It's been a month and you're still here. I'm not gonna support you anymore. Go away. My things are packed. If you need money for the bus, be my guest." Amelia threw some change at John, but he grimaced and waved it away. "What exactly is your problem? I gave you money for school. It's not enough. I want you to work. I want stability." Amelia paused. "What's that? You bought a new toy? What's the big deal? We don't have enough for anything, and you're buying games. I can afford it. Can you?" "Yeah, here," John shook his card. "I earned it." Amelia was speechless. "Why don't you say something? I'll transfer it to you so you'll finally calm down." "How much?" "You know that Anthony needs winter clothes. That's it? That's why you're willing to deprive your child of a father? I don't see you giving anything back. You don't even take out the trash." "God, what a problem." He rolled his eyes. "Do you know that there are 1.5 times fewer men than women? And that you're lucky to have me in your life. A lot of women would give anything to have a man in the house, and you're not happy." Amelia didn't answer. She started crying out of helplessness. She just wanted to leave. But where could she go with her son from her apartment, which was inherited from her grandfather? There was still a house in the village, but her mother lived there. Amelia didn't want to go back to the village. "Don't cry. It's not that bad. Here, buy what you need." John transferred a small sum to his wife. "There will be more tomorrow. And this, I've made a deal with my mother." "About what?" "She's moving in with us. She'll help you with the chores while you work. You say you don't have time for anything, so I thought." No. Amelia shook her head. If John could still be tolerated, she did not plan to live under the same roof with her mother-in-law. "It's too late to change anything. I've made all the arrangements. Mom's coming to stay with us. Grandma's coming. Yay." Anthony came running into the room. He came home from school and heard his parents talking about Maya coming to live with them. Anthony adored Grandma because she spoiled him and gave him presents. But Amelia didn't share her son's joy. "So call her and cancel the arrangement," she told her husband. "No way. She's already taken the deposit from the tenants. And you can't get the deposit back because some of the money's already been spent." "For what?" "A new mattress." "Do you think Mom's gonna sleep on an old mattress? She has a bad back." "You want to give her our bedroom." "Yeah, we'll stay in the kitchen. There's a couch there. You're young and healthy. What do you care where you sleep?" "That's it, honey. No more wasting time talking. All right, I'm gonna go to the store and get Mommy's favorite sausage and something for dinner. You clean up the kitchen. You know she hates dirt." Amelia sank tiredly into a chair and covered her face with her hands. The last thing in the world she wanted was for this conversation to end this way. Amelia heard her husband John going to meet his mother Maya. That night, he confronted Amelia with the fact that she was moving in to live with them under the pretense of helping with the household chores. Amelia had no friendship with her mother-in-law. Maya didn't take Amelia seriously. She liked Genesis, John's ex-wife. And Amelia just tolerated, accepted as a fact, an addition to the only grandchild. However, Amelia did not try to establish relations with her mother-in-law. But she did not forbid her to see her grandson, although she did not like that Maya spoils the child. And yet, one thing, not to forbid meetings, and another, to allow her to live in her apartment and listen to teachings and instructions on how to bring up her son. While John went to the store for delicacies for his mother-in-law, Amelia's mind was spinning with thoughts, one worse than the other. She decided for herself as soon as possible to divorce her husband and evict him from her apartment. But to do that, she had to file for divorce and wait for the court's decision. And Amelia no longer had the strength to tolerate a dependent husband. She even thought of locking herself from the inside so that John could not open the door, and she and his mother did not get into the apartment. But that option would work if her son wasn't home. Anthony could hear the doorbell ringing, and his beloved grandmother would have to be let in one way or another. Having come up with nothing, Amelia decided that she needed to consult someone more experienced. Only one woman came to mind, her colleague and head of the department, Mela, but to do that, she needed to survive the night. Amelia went to her son's room and caught him sorting out old toys. She glanced at the cars and boats, and among them, she saw an old toy. A strange but very interesting thought occurred to her. She could only hope that her mother-in-law would come before John did, and Amelia was in luck. As soon as the preparations for the meeting with her mother-in-law were completed, the doorbell rang. "Grandma's here." Anthony rushed to open the door, and Amelia climbed on the table and waited. Her calculation was correct. Maya came with a present for her grandson, and the son immediately began to unpack it, not paying attention to what was happening. And the mother-in-law went to the kitchen and saw Amelia on the table. "Don't move, Maya," Amelia said in a whisper. "She's around here somewhere." "Who is she?" The mother-in-law stared, not realizing what had happened. "A mouse, Mommy." "Out," Amelia shrieked, pointing to the corner. Maya almost fainted from fear. She was very squeamish and hated rodents. "Grab her, Maya. What are you standing there for?" But Maya didn't look at the corner and leaped out of the kitchen with unprecedented agility, closing the door behind her. "What is it?" Amelia heard Anthony's voice. "Mice in your house. It's come to this. Not with this mess," she wailed, not knowing what to do. "Real ones?" Anthony was surprised. "Of course they are. I thought it was a good thing when I saw the announcement in the elevator that the place was being fumigated. The neighbors are getting rid of the mice, so they came to you." Amelia could hardly contain her laughter. Her mother-in-law believed her. Amelia shrieked again and threw her slipper into the corner. There was a crash. "Okay, Anthony, put your jacket on. We're leaving." "What about Mom and Dad?" "Mom's going to be busy exterminating the infestation." Maya could be heard fidgeting with her coat. Amelia jumped off the table and ran out of the kitchen with a squeal. "Quick, close the door." "Oh, what's that in there?" Maya turned pale. On the floor under the door was something long and very much like a rat's tail. She grabbed her grandson and ran out of the apartment, knocking down the movers with the mattress. "Bring it in here," John commanded, but Maya flatly refused to enter the apartment. "I changed my mind. First, let the sanitary station work here, and then invite me in." "Excuse me?" John frowned. "Tell your wife to take the garbage out of the house more often. The kitchen is full of dirty dishes. The living room is full of fast food boxes. It's a nightmare." Maya was so shocked that she didn't listen to John. "Woman, what's wrong with the mattress?" What? Take it back to the store. I don't need it anymore. I'm going home." "And the tenants?" Amelia spoke up. "Let them rent an apartment somewhere else. I've changed my mind about moving." "Anthony, are you with me, or what?" my mother-in-law asked. "I'm with my mom," Anthony said quietly. He was both scared and curious. He did not see that the tail under the door was not real, and did not realize that Amelia had borrowed his toy rat, which had only one tail left, but it was as good as a real one. "And you, son, are you staying too?" She stared at John. He didn't answer. It was noticeable how difficult the decision was for him. "Suit yourself," Maya said and hurried to call the elevator. John stayed in the elevator. He too was afraid of mice and rats, and the higher up the elevator went, the more he realized that he too should go to his mother's house for the night. "John, there's some cleaning up to do in the kitchen. I threw a slipper at a mouse, and I must have hit it." "You're a man? Go check," said Amelia, trying not to laugh. "Tell you what, Amelia, I'm not going to live here until you solve the problem," he told his wife. "And I'm certainly not going to touch those things. Maybe they're rabid, who knows? Well, you go to Maya's. I'll do the cleaning and make a treatment of the apartment. John looked at his mother and nodded. You'll call me when you can come back. I will. And Amelia did indeed call. After consulting with a lawyer, she dialed her husband's number to let him know she had filed for divorce. John didn't want to lose his convenient wife, but Amelia was adamant. She changed the locks and wouldn't let her ex-husband into the apartment. Anthony took the news that his dad would no longer be living with them quite hard. Amelia tried to explain to him that it would be better for everyone, and over time, it did get better. Maya's grandson continued to communicate, but John, left without subsidies, did not take any part in Anthony's life. Maya tried to reason with her son, but he only waved her away. To pay child support, he began to earn online. But he wasn't always lucky. John got to the point where he started taking valuables out of his mother's house to pay off his debts. Maya did not like it, and she sent her son to treatment. What happened to him next? Amelia did not know. She focused on her son's future. Amelia did not want Anthony to grow up to be a copy of his father, and she tried to raise him properly to prevent history from repeating itself.